Welcome to the A Bit of AI show with your hosts, Henk and Amy.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the fourth A Bit of AI show with myself, Henk Boelman, and Amy Boyd. We both work at Microsoft as cloud advocates in the AI space. Good morning, Amy. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Yeah, I'm doing well. It's always been a busy week, but it has been a busy week of confirming speakers for a bit of AI. And we're pretty much there all the way through till June. So super exciting. Thank you to everyone who we've reached out to.
Cool. Yeah, and I think this week there is the MVP Summit, which we were also busy with, talking to many of our MVPs about what they are doing, which projects they're working on, how they are, because we haven't seen them for so long. I think some of them, it's like 2 years ago, I actually seen in person on the last MVP Summit. And that is also what is our show about, is about what people do in their daily life working with AI. And in our show, we focus on people from pre-sales up to consultancy to engineers and data scientists that create the neural networks. And like in our first show with Terry, how you actually can run them in production. So welcome everyone again. So let's get started with our guests. So in today's show, we have 3 items. So we start off with our main guest, Journey, and chat a little bit about his life in AI. What is he doing? What is he building? Then we talk about our AI Learning Challenge. And there is one event I want to feature this week. And as always, all the information is available on our website, abitofai.show. Did I forget anything, Amy?
So the only thing I want to throw in there nice and early is we obviously have our community cafe straight after the show. It's called A Bit of AI Cafe. The whole idea of it is that we get to speak to all of you who are watching, but you also get to ask questions of our guest, whoever they are in the week, because we do a lot of question asking, but we know that you probably want to do that too. So join us for 30 minutes after the show. If you go to aka.ms/abitofai-cafe, or if you're watching this on the website, you can click above.
Perfect. So let's get started. Hi, Journey. How are you doing today?
Hi, Amy. Hi, Hank. I'm doing great. By the way, to easy pronounce my name, you can just call me JK. Otherwise, it's your name. But
JK,
yeah, this week was this week's MVP Summit was really amazing. It was my first one. And I really hope the next year is going to be in person. But despite of that, it was really, really good. It really shows the community of MVP and the good stuff we're going to do for the community in the future.
Wonderful. Yeah, and we got to chat with yourself. We did a bit of an interesting session, but it was amazing to see what everyone's working on. I mean, there's so much going on out there. And Henk, as you said, that is the whole point, right? Connecting everyone and for us to understand and share your story. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's dive straight in. We have a few minutes to basically ask you all about yourself so that people know what it's like when you're working in AI and your particular role. So the best place for us to start is tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Henk Amy. You can just call me JK. That's much easier. I'm a solution architect at SSW here in Australia, Brisbane. And what I do is mostly from start to end solutions, usually on Azure with Azure Functions, Cosmos DB, all of the buzzwords. Lastly, I worked with Blazor Wasm, so that is my favorite front end. Otherwise, I'm also doing quite a bit on AI. specifically on cognitive services and on ML.NET. And my focus mostly is to identify scenarios and teaching people how to do machine learning, how to use cognitive services and things like that, where I have another person that is far more specialized in the machine learning itself, but they usually use me to actually identify those scenarios first and what we can do with the data and how can we leverage additional resources to get complicated solution done.
That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. And actually, I'm gonna move one of our questions around there. Can I ask you a bit more about your background? Because you obviously said Blazor, favorite front end, and I think for some people watching the show who are maybe more on the data scientist side of things, they'll be like, "What? Like, oh, okay." So tell us a little bit more about what you've done before you started to do AI and how you got into AI.
Well, I started, if we go really back, I started actually as a UX designer for WPF and all of the XAML platforms under the sun. And when I moved to Australia, I started to become a web developer all the way to a solution architect. So my main focus really was and still is building entire solutions for enterprise, entertainment, and whatever comes in my way. So yeah, I'm primarily a developer, and I learn AI in order to enhance the software rather than trying to come up with an AI problem and then solve it. So I'm the other way around.
No, that's super interesting. Well, Henk, because we actually speak about something very similar in one of our talks, and we call it build versus buy, which basically is that piece of, well, if there is already something there, you've mentioned the Azure Cognitive Services very briefly there, then if you can use it, it's probably great in a solution to enhance an application. And then there's that kind of build piece, like, you know, if it's a lot more bespoke or is something quite specific, maybe that fits better. So it's really, really good to see the two distinctions in some senses in how you're working on it. So that's really, really cool. I guess one of the things that we always ask our guests is, this is a hard question, JK, so like prepare yourself, but what does an average day in your job look like? Like what does a good average day for a solution architect working on AI projects look like?
So first we start with a daily scrum, then definitely coffee, sometimes breakfast as well. Then usually the projects that I do daily, they are more web and backend orientated. But when I do, so that basically means Visual Studio, coding away, talking to people to get specs right, and managing PPIs and all of the good Scrum stuff. But when I do AI, generally what I do is I talk to people. I try to see whether we're still on goal with the AI that we're building, and just making sure that the thing that we are getting is roughly what they're imagining that it should be, so that they don't have over expectations that the AI is just going to solve everything. The way that I like to suggest to people is we're going to build you like an auto-suggest thing where you can then approve it rather than a thing that just does the work for you. Because if you want to do that, you basically need to put a lot more effort, a lot more time, and a lot of clients, unfortunately, don't get the funds for it. So yeah, we usually on a daily basis, we just communicate whether the results were correct for what we predicted.
That's really interesting. And I guess the side piece of that is that sounds like traditional software engineering, right? That's the same way that we apply software engineering to applications, the same way we apply it to web dev, the same way we apply it to, business intelligence, etc. Like we work as teams. I guess lots of skill sets within your team, lots of different
Yes.
Specializations.
Yeah, so we have a lot of people who are specialized in just a few things, but most of us have a pretty broad tool set, which means that while we only have a couple of people who have AI as their specialization, most of us know how to build bots, how to do cognitive services, know some of the basics of machine learning. So everyone can at least understand what we're doing and implement a portion of it, maybe even fix it if the main person responsible for it is not available.
That's really cool. Nice. And one of the things that we definitely wanted to ask you about, and actually was one of the reasons that we you got in touch with us, was around a project you've been working on actually with the Azure Cognitive Services. Can you tell us a little bit more about that project?
Yeah, so the story behind Cognitive Studio, that's what I called the project, is I wanted to build something like a Postman for cognitive services. Because what I noticed is that the samples that we got on the cognitive services pages, when they do exist, they're usually quite rudimental or they're not complete. So I wanted to build Cognitive Studio, which, for instance, for Face API, not only it allows you to see what would happen when you call a detect function, or if you have uploaded 2 images, but it will detect the same person, but it allows you to explore, for instance, the face groups. And then inside a face group, it allows you to explore and manage people inside of a group, and then also manage the images, names, metadata, and all of that stuff. So it almost, at least for the facial recognition, it's almost serves as like a management tool. But it also gives you documentation for every single request that happens. I have managed to make all of the requests to be importable into Postman, so you can just copy paste every single request, and they actually execute the same way as they did on the application. You can do identify, recognize with your own picture, even on an iPad, which was a challenge because it was Blazor WASM. So I needed to write webcam integration and all of that stuff before all of that was even available. And right now, you can also use it for text API, speech recognition with text analysis. So you can actually say something, and it will automatically do text analysis on that text that it recognizes. And there's a rudimental support for form recognizer. But for that one, I will need to record a video to show people how to use it. It's a little bit more complicated to set up. But the idea is that clients can use that to, for instance, for managing all of the people they have in the Face API, for new people to try out and see how different services do, and even for presenters, it allows you to switch between different profiles. And when you show the curl, it actually allows you to hide the token. It's hidden by default, so that you can actually show how the requests are made without exposing a token. So I had different kind of hats when building this software, not just people who want to use it to manage things or try out, but also for presenters to be a tool for teaching other people.
Oh, wonderful. Me and Henk will have to pick that up and use it. That sounds really, really cool. And I guess that whole piece around people build tools for complex technology to democratize it, and you're kind of doing even the same thing. Love that it creates the curl statements as well. Really useful to just make sure you're getting like that best practice, as well as interesting. You just mentioned like in businesses and organizations, it's not necessarily that there's endless budget for these types of projects yet, or full focus, and this is the core at the moment. People are still dabbling, they're still trying it, sort of thing. So I'm sure this will be amazing. Where can people find out more about Cognitive Studio?
So they can find it on a URL called cognitivestudio.dev.
Simple. That's what we like. That's what we like here. Cognitivestudio.dev. And Henk, can we add that? Can we add that to our website so it's easy for people to get to?
We will absolutely do that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and if anyone is interested to help out, I would be very happy to accept pull requests.
That's even better. That's exactly why we bring projects on here. We want everyone to get to contribute and get involved. So yeah, cognitivestudio.dev, go there and go and help out, JK. That's very exciting. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah,
Yes,
happy to do so.
I will absolutely use that in my next talks. It sounds really easy. And one of the good things for me would be that I don't have to reinvent all the curl statements again. Because normally what I would do is I would go to docs, find out the statements, read the documentation, and here I can actually see what and how it works. Mm-hmm. So we have some questions from the chat for you, or maybe for us.
Yeah.
I guess they're going to be for you. So I'm going to ask, what are you most excited about now in the world of AI?
Ooh, that one is difficult. So personally, I love. It's escaping my mind. The AI that teaches itself.
Reinforcement learning. So that
yes,
one?
Reinforcement. Thanks about that. Yeah, so I'm most excited for reinforced learning. I think there's more and more work being done to be easily used in C#, like in Unity 3D, you can already use it. And I think this kind of machine learning may change a lot of industries in interesting ways that we have not expected. And the changes that are currently being done in ML.NET Model Builder are amazing. I'm really looking forward that when they implement all of the scenarios, that will change the landscape of how C# developers look at machine learning. And lastly, the cognitive services, the spatial analysis, that one is amazing, like detecting where people are, where the cars are. I was just blown away by that one.
Wow, very, very good. I like that.
I still have to try that one.
Yeah, that one is amazing. Yeah, you can track people, for instance, in the store or reception for the spatial analysis. Yeah, so if you use it, for instance, in a store, you can actually track people where they're going. For instance, there's a special area where you want to track people. For instance, they need to have masks to be there in that area. Or, for instance, you want only employees to be in that area. The way they do this is by actually checking out the clothes. So if it's employee clothes, then it will be like, yeah, it's an employee in that area. So it doesn't use facial recognition or face detection. As far as I understand, it uses skeleton detection, which is anonymous.
Do you need special cameras?
To my knowledge, it's just a color camera. Although right now, if I understand correctly, they're limited actually on a NVIDIA GPU chip more than a specific camera.
Okay, so you don't need that new Kinect or anything.
Exactly. They did release Azure Percept Vision, which is compatible with this. So if you want to just buy the hardware.
It's on the way. for like a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
To my
Gosh,
understanding,
you'll have to share it with us.
Yeah.
yeah. To
So-
my understanding, we're going to have support for multiple webcams and cameras and IoT devices, but right now it's a little bit limited.
Cool. Oh, that is going to be really good. I have to try that. Last question before we move on to our next section. What is your most annoying thing about your role in AI?
Annoying thing. Finding data. Like when I'm trying to do examples for clients to show, how clustering works or how, different kind of AI works. I try to find data that would connect to them, because it's not just about showing, hey, see how this magic works. If that magic doesn't connect with them, you could show them real magic and it wouldn't matter. So finding right data for examples is essential to get people on board for machine learning and to understand how it actually works. And that's one of the biggest pain that I have, finding the right data.
Wonderful. That's a good answer. We get a different answer from every single guest, I think. Data has come up in a slightly different concept of data, so that's really, really good. Thank you. We are going to do a very quick fire round. So our quick fire round is all about our pretty simple questions. They're always a surprise to JK. We haven't discussed them in our previous chats, but you obviously do know that they're coming up. So we're going to very quickly just go through a few of them, and me and Henk will alternate. JK, try and keep your answers as short as possible, and the most immediate thing that comes to mind.
I'll try my best.
Okay. Wonderful. So the first question is, what was your first programming language?
C++.
And what programming language?
Actually, sorry, C.
C even.
C.
Yeah, C.
What programming language was
came
used
later.
in the last project you worked on?
C#.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so still in the area of that same area. Okay, so what was the last thing you learnt in AI? No more than one sentence.
Forecasting.
Oh, good one. Really good one.
Favorite event in the AI calendar?
Ooh. I would kind of chip out and say MVP Summit.
Oh, interesting. What area of AI is on your list next to skill up on? So what are you going to learn next, do you think?
Reinforced learning.
Very good.
Cool. And our last question is about training frameworks. So what training framework are you using, or did you use last?
ML.NET.
ML.NET. Cool.
That is a new one. People have been going for all sorts, so I'm really, really glad we got that in there. Well, that is all we've got time for, JK. It's been a whirlwind of 20 minutes with yourself. Thank you so much for coming on, discussing your role, the connection between AI and developer, the amazing tooling, Cognitive Studio that you're building, and how people can get involved. JK, have we got you for 30 minutes after the show? Will you be around?
Yeah, no worries. Just send me the link and I'll join.
Wonderful. And so for everyone else, actually the link is aka.ms/a-bit-of-ai-cafe, or if you're on the website, you can press the link above.
Perfect. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you a bit later in the cafe.
That is aka.ms, a bit of AI coffee.
Exactly.
Dash and then cafe, so CAFE.
And the link is also on the website on the top.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
I,
That went fast. So that leaves us with our two last items. So first, every show we talk about a cool upcoming event, and this week I think I have a good one. This is about this event is from NVIDIA, and they have a yearly conference called GTC, and this year it is GTC 21, and it is a conference for AI innovators, technologists, and creatives. And it is lasting for 4 days with workshops, with keynotes, with 25 sessions from Microsoft, all about AI, and probably has something to do with all the GPUs NVIDIA has offering and those cool Jetson devices. So I'm definitely going to watch and see how it is going. We will pop in the link in the chat. I will actually do that now, and it will be available. It's a horrible link to read out loud. So you have to go to a bitofai.show and then go to the session, and you will find the link there. So over to you, Amy,
Wonderful.
for the last.
Yes, as always, straight after events, we talk a bit about a Learn module, and we obviously have a new challenge for you today. Our Learn modules always resonate with exactly what our guest has spoken about, well, as close as I can possibly make it. So I actually have 4 different things for you, and they're all from our Azure Cognitive Services this week. So we have processing images with our computer vision service. We have detecting and analyzing faces with the face service, because obviously JK spoke a lot about that. So definitely, learn about the cognitive services and then go and use Cognitive Studio as well. We've got analyzing receipts with Forms Recognizer. And finally, we have discover sentiment in text with the Text Analytics API. So these are 4 different modules. They're all quite short, so it's not it seems like a lot, but it shouldn't be too bad. And where you find all of these, if you go to aka.ms/abitofai-learn, or as always, you can get all of these links at abitofai.show. So there's a little bit about our Learn Challenge, our Cloud Skills Challenge that we host every week. And on that note, it's time for us to close up for another show in the bag. And so thank you so much for joining us today. We really hope you've enjoyed the conversation. And thank you so much for those who sent questions in. You can obviously join us in the Bit of AI Cafe to ask even more questions of me and Henk, or also of our guests. So if you go to a bitofai-cafe, we're here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Central European Time, or in the middle of the day for IST, or in the evening for AEDT, so over in more Australia. We have an amazing guest next week, Marta Rodriguez Martinez. Marta is a dear friend of mine. I'm really excited to bring her on the show and talk all about what she's doing. And if you want to obviously rewatch any of our previous episodes, this is episode number 4 already, you can go to a bitofai.show and catch up on demand. And so with that, thank you so much for watching A Bit of AI with Henk and Amy.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you next week.